Live chat. If you're in later on, hello. A couple of days ago, and it was a bit breaky, and the sound was a bit weird. So we'll try again today. So I've just finished training, so I'm cleaning up. So yeah, I want to cover today this idea that you feel like nothing's helping you, or you feel like you've tried everything, or if you're just in a place where you're making slow progress and you're getting frustrated and you feel like it's never going to work fully to the way you want it to. It's so important to know the long game with things. So it's so easy to get caught up in your own negativity and thinking that you're doing everything right, and it can hold you back a ton. Like if you really identify as something like, oh, I've tried everything and nothing will help me. I've got this, I've got that, and that means I can't do X, Y, and Z. If you get stuck in that mind frame, it's very hard to kind of get out of that. And you know, I've been doing this now for 10 years and I'm still going to courses every year and I'm still learning stuff. And probably the place nowadays that I learn the most stuff is from talking to people about where they're struggling and how they understand movements. I actually get to a place where I'm like, I need to figure out how to explain this better to this person so that it really clicks with them. So that's kind of like where I'm still learning today. So if you've been trying to fix yourself or overcome something for like a year or two, like it's still early days in some cases. And especially if you're someone that didn't work on your mobility for years, or you don't have an extensive training background, stuff like that, you're almost having to try and navigate learning how to calm your own nervous system down and get out of pain at the same time as trying to learn how to lift for the very first time. So I think there's comments here as well. If you want to drop a comment, drop a question as well at any time. I will try and keep up with comments on this as well. It just looks a bit weird. It doesn't tell you stuff right away. Hello, Bobby. So yeah, it's something to keep in mind if you feel really stuck and you feel like nothing's helping you. Like, what evidence have you got that you're doing it right? So that's kind of like, I work with some people that have been training for years and years and years, like competed, won medals, all of that kind of stuff. And I am still able to offer them some kind of guidance in some kind of way that they will end up saying, going, I never realized that before, you know? And like I said, even me 10 years in, there's still stuff every year that I'm like, I did not think about that in that way before. So there's some things you need to do in a certain order in order for something else to work at some point. And if you just go all in at something, you might get stuck. And the trickiest thing is as well, is if you are strong in a certain way, if you have been doing, if you've been training for a while and say you can lift considerable weight, you can do pull-ups, you can do you can run a good 5K time, whatever, you have this idea that you can already do stuff and you're above certain things. And if you end up in a bad place with pain, you might need to work way, way, way down here before you can even cope with up here again. But the problem is that because you can just jump right in and do certain exercises, that's where you want to be. And you think that anything like that is beneath you, like you're regressing or you're going backwards. But it's actually just too much for your body to cope with right now to work here in order for you to get here. So you need to go to there and hang out and work, and then build things up, and then get to the top again. Good sound. Thank you, Bobby. Awesome. Yeah, I always worry about using this Poyo. So it's a great microphone, but in live, I'm kind of worried about it not kicking in at the right time. So let's tap this again, see if we can get the comments back up again. Good sound here. Purple green, no sound. Very grateful for you and your crew. Thank you very much. So yes, we all work very, very hard to spread the flong and flexible message. For any of you that don't know what flong and flexible is, it is our ethos of being both strong and flexible. And we don't mean to world record deadlift levels or being able to be a contortionist levels. We want everybody to have this solid baseline of strength and flexibility so they can do whatever it is that they want to do. The stuff that they're passionate about, that's what we want to help you to be able to do. So for me, in my programming and people that I train, I like to just kind of go, right, I'm going to give you a working body that you can just go and play with and do whatever it is that fires you up, because that's the thing I'm most passionate about. I love meeting people that are really interested in something and I don't care what it is, if it's pole dancing or tennis or cycling or CrossFit or anything, whatever they're passionate about, I just love to talk to them about it. seeing that fire in someone is what excites me. So I like to give people a moving, working body so they can do the stuff and end up, being able to push themselves and have fun and not worry about their body letting them down. So that's kind of like what flowing and flexible is. You want good strength and flexibility together so that you can go and do whatever. So you can push your strength if you want to. You can push your flexibility if you want to. You want to have that nice mix of both. Oh, there's Sue. Hi, Sue. So, hi, Tom. I've been doing 90-90 for weeks and no improvement on muscles back of right knee. Can't even kneel straight, let alone head towards heels. Just persevere. Thanks, Tom. So if you're really struggling with the heel sit, so if I go back far enough, can you see here? So if you're really struggling with this position here, sitting down like this, the ways that you can start to work on that is to use your stairs and to start just trying to get that knee bending fully and trying to sink into this position here. You're going to need to work at it every day. The other thing you want to do is give yourself a bit of wiggling, okay? So don't just kind of go straight forwards and backwards. If you feel you get stuck here, wiggle your knee from side to side and then see, can you start to sink a little bit further? I'm talking over the course of a few minutes. Wiggle from side to side and see, can you start to get a bit further? And the same thing when it comes to trying to sit on your heels. Try to get yourself to a certain point. Wiggle yourself from side to side. So don't just try and force yourself down in one direction. Let yourself move a little bit from side to side. Come up, shake it off. Back down, come up, shake it off. Move around like that and it will start to improve. 90-90 is going to help your hip rotation, but that actual full opening of the quad, you want to be working on the couch stretch to stretch the hip flexors as well because it's all connected upstream. So work on that and work on a deep split squat on your stairs and remember that kind of wiggle point. So if you're just trying to bash something forwards all the time, it's going to get stuck, it's going to feel weak. And the same thing goes for any stretches, you want to wiggle around. So if I'm just stretching my shoulder, I don't just want to stretch it in this one plane. I want to move it here as well, move it down here as well, let it move in a bunch of different positions, and that will help everything improve together. So you're not just stuck with a joint that only moves one way, essentially. So something to play with. Where are we? When in the middle of a bad low back flare, sciatica flare up, what are some resting positions that make sense? Been trying to do some light stuff from McGill Big 3, slow progress, split squats, etc. See, the thing with sciatica that's tricky, can I move you down a bit? I'll try and move you down. Is that when you first start to move, things will feel like they're getting worse initially, okay? So one of the things that you want to get to, I will actually try and put my weights away here. One of the things you want to get to, I can't leave that like that. There, that's better. Is being able to sit down on the floor in this position and be able to twist from side to side in your 90-90. Now, I've had sciatica multiple times before. Trying to even sit on your butt cheek, agony, okay? So get yourself a nice soft mat to sit on, and then first things first, you want to start to try and activate the muscles of your hips. So you don't just want to go straight for direct stretching, okay? So this still is a stretch position, but what you want to try and do is almost imagine you're trying to use your glute in this position as well. So I let my knee fall out to the side. I squeeze my left glute, so it's my left leg. I squeeze my left glute, and then I try and get my knee to the ground. So I'm not just actively letting this fall out to the side to try and stretch. I'm trying to make my glutes feel like they're working, they're doing something. I'm abducting the leg, and I can do the other side. So that's kind of the way you want to think about it. You're trying to use positions that look like stretching, but be active in them as well to try and make the muscles feel like they do something. If you get a really sharp stabby pain, or you feel like you need to take a break for a second, just roll to whatever position you need to get into and hang out there until you feel like you can start to get back into it again. Now, this is for sciatica. If you've had sciatica on and off for years and years and years, this is the stuff you need to do. If it's your first ever time, rest it out, fix your hips afterwards. But if you're getting these bouts of pain, you need to start to learn how to move while you're in the pain to reduce it down. So this could take like 10 minutes to get yourself to a point that you can actually tolerate the full 90-90 position and being able to lean yourself forward and stretch that hip out, but also press that leg into the ground and try and get things feeling active. Other things to work on as well is just squeeze your butt. So here, stand yourself up, squeeze your butt. It might feel like it's putting more pressure on things, but squeeze your butt as hard as you can, then squeeze your butt a little bit harder, and then a little bit harder again, and then relax it off. It might feel like it brings your pain level up a bit, but then try and get it to relax down a little bit again. And the more you can get the muscles feeling like they're doing something, the less the pain is going to want to be there, essentially. So you'll be able to get yourself to a stage that you could tolerate, say, stretching your hamstrings or something like that. You'll probably know yourself if you've got a bad sciatica flare up, just to put your leg up on something straight like that and do that would just make you squeal out a window, like you'd shatter like glass. So starting to play with that sensation in a slow way. So relax your breathing. Bring yourself back. Try and slowly straighten out the leg and then back through. So don't go for fully straight. So if it was to make you squeal back here somewhere, you just go to where you feel the pain start to rise, and then you go back out of it again. And you want to have this back and forth play with where you can get to before the pain starts to creep up. And if you're able to get yourself to a point that, say you first started doing this and you could get to about here before it hurt, if you're doing that for 5 minutes, say, and you're getting to here before it hurts, that's a win. And you've got to take that sometimes. So if it's quite a severe sciatica flare-up, you've got to take like a 10% kind of, win that you've improved your range of motion before the pain hits and you're in less pain. That can be your win, because you can't just kind of go, I want to be pain-free right now. That's not realistic in some cases, especially if it's been going on for a while and your body's got into a habit of giving you extreme pain. You need to train that out of yourself, like I said, through moving. So that's some ideas to work on. Make sure any stretching you're using, try and use the muscles in the stretch. Even just, like I said, if you're stretching out the adductors inside of the hip, here's a really nice one as well to work on. Stretching out the inside, squeeze inwards and use the muscles as well, and then relax and try and sink into it. So it's that idea. If you've ever heard anyone before say contract, relax, that's what that means. Squeeze and then relax it and try and go a little bit further. It's like lonely PNF stretching, I like to call it. So, can I bring you back up again? There we go. You are very welcome. Seem to have a flare. Yeah, flare-ups once a year, and in between you're great. Yeah, very, very common. And sometimes, like, kind of look at what happens, like, especially this time of year for a lot of people coming up to Christmas and stuff. It's like they stop training as often, they don't go to the gym in the mornings or do stretches in the mornings because it's starting to be cold, or they're going to Christmas parties, and all of their good habits change. And that's what actually can start to trigger the flare up, because they've stopped doing all the good stuff that they're usually doing. So there is some kind of sometimes warning signs, but you can know with all the best will in the world, you can know it's going to happen, and it can still happen anyway. But navigating through the flare up is kind of the thing that you want to learn. And it's not talked about enough. Like, getting yourself out of pain through moving is a trainable skill. It's something you can get better at. So all of the stuff that I'm talking about here right now, like that stuff that like used to take me like a few weeks for the pain to calm down, and then it became a few days for the pain to calm down. And now I'm at a stage now, if I do get a really bad flare up, that I'm able to get over it in like 30 minutes. I'm actually able to use these movements, and I've just got so much control over my brain, essentially, from trying to freak out, that I'm able to go, no, calm down, and move to relax it. But that took me years to get to. So that's kind of the way you got to think. You haven't tried everything. You haven't tried being consistent for years and years and years with stuff, and understanding movements better as well. You've no idea how many people in the world right now are thinking they're doing movements right because weights are going up, but they're not loading things properly. So you can get strong wrong. Your body can adapt to anything. So you can have a slightly bad deadlift technique and it looks like your back's flat. It looks like it's straight, but you're not loading your hips, your hamstrings, your glutes enough. And that's all the stress going to the lower back. And we're not that fragile. Your lower back can cope with a lot of punishment before it starts to get really ticked off at you. So always keep that in mind. Like, always review your technique with stuff. Like, I teach Olympic weightlifting as well. And we always encourage people to film themselves, because bad habits just creep in. It doesn't matter how long you've been training. As soon as you're starting to push the weights and stuff like that, you get pulled out of positions more. All of this kind of stuff starts to happen. So yeah, things to keep in mind. Got the sound. Awesome. The tight thoracic affects shoulders and affect lower back, absolutely. So if up here doesn't move right, here gets stuck on itself. So then that's where you can start to feel pinching around the front of the shoulder. So your shoulder blade has this little bone up around the top here as well. And if you're stuck here, you'll kind of run into it because it can't go up. Someone asked about the scap upwardly rotating as well. So you want to start off with exercises called zenith rotations. So that's when you're on all fours. You rotate up, breathe out, twist yourself further. So if you search Tom Morrison Zenith, Z-E-N, Zen, I-T-H, that's hard to spell in real life. I could type it with my thumbs all day long, but saying it out loud, I haven't done. Search for that, Zenith rotations, and there'll be exercises you want to work on every day. That clears the ribs and the thoracic spine. So you've got 12 thoracic vertebra. You want them to be super mobile so that your neck can sit in the right position, but also so you can bring more stability to your lumbar spine. So there's only 5 vertebrae down here, so you don't want to be twisting and turning at all of those. And if here's locked up, the lower back needs to twist and move more in order to do things. And if it doesn't feel stable over time, that can give you lower back pain as well. So always having good thoracic mobility is always a good idea. For the scap upward rotation, what you can start to work on is a resistance band above the head, and just start to work on pull down, squeeze shoulder blades together, and then up and press out. So if you're going out nice and far like this, it won't be as much pressure on the shoulder going straight up like that. So work on it out here first, and then over a few weeks, start to bring your grip in a little bit over time. So you're maybe not as far out and you can start to work on that way. So actually behind the neck pressing is a really good thing to work on with barbells once your thoracic mobility is sorted out. And that's the big thing that I keep saying about you haven't tried everything. So if someone was to go hear from someone else that like never had shoulder problems going, oh, you just need to do behind the neck pressing, and this other person has horrendous thoracic mobility, then they're going to try and do behind the neck pressing like this, and they're going to whack themselves in the back of the head of the bar and they're just going to be grinding their shoulders, and it's not going to feel good because they can't get into that position. So that's why like in shoulder and posture fix, we teach thoracic first, then make sure the neck's not overcompensating and overpowering things, then you go into shoulder exercises. Whereas some people will just jump straight into shoulder exercises. They'll start doing all of this stuff here, but if here's locked up, it doesn't work. And you might feel okay at the time. You might feel, oh, it feels great now. And then like 2 hours later, you're like, oh, it's really sore again. What the hell? You know, and it's like, because you're not addressing those other things, you're not getting into the right positions. So you're actually irritating things long term. And then that's where you end up like, you'll start getting tendonitis, bursitis, all of this stuff, because you're not in the right positions doing exercises. So that's why order is so important sometimes. So let's see if we can get more up here. Please make a video on whole recovery and exercise of slipped disc. So, Arian, like it'll be impossible to do that in one video because there was many stages to it, but that is what our content starts to go into. So if you've seen some of our stuff around like my MRI results, so for those of you that don't know, I've got 4 herniated lumbar discs. I've got multiple level nerve impingement. I have a herniation in my cervical spine as well. I've got bone growths and osteophytes in my cervical spine. I have a syrinx inside my spinal cord, so it's a cyst inside my spinal cord. If that keeps expanding, I will be paralyzed from anything below where it is. I've got bone growths in my SI joints. What else have I got? An edema, which is a significant bone growth in my hips. I've got labral tears. All of that stuff all shows up on my MRI scans from last November. And I'm literally just after doing Olympic lifting for half an hour and a bunch of handstand push-ups and muscle ups and fun stuff. So your MRI results or like structural injuries that you may have might not always correlate with pain. And if I had have got those results before I knew what I know now, yeah, I would have stopped doing everything. Like I would have been like, well, I'm broken. I better not ever try and move or I will cause more damage. And it's the most annoying thing for me is that phrase, I will cause more damage. You will cause more damage from being weak and not stable than anything else, okay? If you're training your muscles, then you are able to actually support things. Even with structural damage, you're able to support things better and keep your body feeling like more confident in itself. So that's the big thing that you're always avoiding, is your body just feeling like if it moves in any way, something will hurt. That will make pain even worse. So why am I still holding this? So yeah, in short, there will be more stuff that we're going to make around disc injuries and things like that, but keep watching as much stuff that we've already made as you can, and you'll keep gleaming little bits. The main thing is like program-wise, the simplistic mobility method. That is the stuff that I used. The super regressions was what I used whenever I was in my worst nerve pain. The regressions is what I used if I was kind of getting places or I was in a little bit of pain and needing to get things moving slowly. And then the full variations is like what you want to maintain forevermore. So for me, my left leg wants to not work. And like if I had a really bad flare up, for example, like I wouldn't be able to put weight in my left leg. Like it would be too painful to even sink into this hip. So I would have to actually walk away from that hip like that. So if I don't actively keep loading that hip, making sure that hamstring's strong, making sure that I can feel that glute in some kind of way, then that's where my pain could come back. So as long as I keep doing SMM regularly, essentially, that keeps the nerve stimulated to know, well, the leg's still working. So that's the big thing I like to say to people. If there was something really, really, really bad wrong with you, you wouldn't be able to stand on one leg. You just, boom, hit the floor. Whereas if you can at least do that, things are still connected, things are still working, you can build on that, you can start to get stronger. So things to think about. Where are we? This comment thing is so strange. You're very welcome. Any suggestions for bed wheelchair bound individuals? I fractured my left ankle and tore a tendon in my right knee. Not moving much is killing my lower back. Yeah, if you are stuck, first of all, very sorry to hear that. That sucks, but you can still do a ton of stuff while you're sitting down. I'll get my box. Handy box, handy box. So hopefully you can see me. So yeah, if I'm stuck sitting and can't do much, I've got my trusty band. Hang on, I'll grab another trusty band. So you do still have all of this stuff here. So like your banded shoulder stuff you've got going on, your retractions you've got going on. You can also twist your upper back as well and pull. You can lean side to side so you can get your spine movement in a little bit as well. Another thing you can do, if you've got something you can anchor around, then you could work, so I'll just use my feet here for example, but I'm not sure if you're able to use your feet or not, but you can also work on pulling and twisting like this. So if you've got something you can attach it to, if you can't use your legs in that way, that's a helpful thing to work on as well. So yeah, get creative. If it's not overly fancy stuff, do tons of reps then. Do stuff that you could do like 100 reps of, do like 10 sets of 10 and really get a good pump on for the shoulders. Getting blood moving in general, it will be helpful for you. But yeah, keep moving as best you can. For your hips, so I think, was it the ankle you said? Was it the ankle? Ankle and knee. Yeah, so what you can do for your hips is just instead of a seated position, you can just work on external or internal rotation, and you can work on external rotation. Doesn't feel like much, but it gets the leg moving in some kind of way. So you're trying to keep the femur in one position and just rotate from the hip. So it should feel quite crampy up at the hip as you do it. And when you do external as well, you should start to feel things working around the side of the hip as well. So you're trying to lift the foot up as much as you can. So internal and external, and chase cramps essentially. Make the muscles feel like they're doing something, and glute bridges if you can. So if you're in a boot, if you can do glute bridges, do tons of glute bridges. They're really good. There's another band on the floor. I'm supposed to be cleaning up, I'm making more mess. So SI joint, big thing with SI joint is make sure your hips are equal on both sides. So if you have a tightness in one hip compared to the other one, then when you squat, when you deadlift, when you walk, when you run, it's as if your pelvis is kind of doing this. And that's why the center starts to feel like it's being tugged at, and you can get that pain at like the center of your back, or sometimes it's like centered but the one side. So make sure your hip flexibility is good with your flexion, your extension, your internal rotation, your external rotation, your abduction, and your adduction. So all 6 of those things, check from hip to hip. SMM helps you with that if you don't have it. And then outside of that, your stability above all else. So side plank march is a really good one to look for, having good stability through the hips too, and also balance as well. So one drill that I really, really love is the single arm, single leg press drill. So that's when you are here. So you'll be limited by how much your shoulders can press, but stand on one leg, press like this. This forces the hips to have to stabilize, and it forces core engagement as well. It's like an auto coach. So you do it on right arm with left leg and right leg, and then you do it on left arm with right leg and left leg, and then that's 4 different patterns. So you've got contralateral patterns, which is contralateral is opposite side hip to shoulder, and ipsilateral is like all down one side. So by doing all 4 of those variations, you work on those things, and that helps with stabilization of the SI joint. So a few things to work with. Where are we? Thank you. Shoulder fix is going great. For the thoracic mobility, would you explain why one scap is anteriorly tipped? Same one with upward rotation issue. It's actually very common, Kathleen, for your shoulders to be kind of different side to side. So you can find for a lot of people that one shoulder kind of wants to do this, and you might have winging on one side. It's actually really, really common. The main thing is that as you're training, you want them to be on the same page so that things are moving equally like that. So that's the main thing. So like I can still wing my right one if I want to, but if I'm training, I know how to keep it where it needs to be. So that's the big thing. So a winged scapula isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like if you ever seen, there's some weird like dancers that they can make their scaps lift up and flop and do all these kind of weird stuff. You know, the ones that can like dislocate their elbow and all that, they're kind of weird stuff. So your shoulders can do a lot more than you think they can. So yeah, it's very common for someone to have that one shoulder kind of going. So it's the main thing is that you're regularly looking after your neck, regularly checking your thoracic mobility. So if you were, say, for example, able to turn really far one way, but the other way you kind of get stuck, what's going to have to happen there is the shoulder's going to have to try and cheat to get that range. So then it's actually a rib and a thoracic issue that you want to work on. So the main thing is that you're working on the daily circuit regularly and you're working on your thoracic mobility regularly, and it will start to balance out. And keep filming yourself as you do stuff, like film yourself from the back and see what things look like as you're moving. But yeah, these bows here, I think I mentioned them earlier, really, really nice. Up, above the head, down, check how your scaps are moving, and then down, and then back up. So I actually have a curve in my thoracic spine as well. So my right shoulder used to be like this, and there's a curve here in my thoracic spine. So if you ever notice sometimes as I'm talking, you might notice that one of my shoulders starts to sit down a little bit lower. So all of these things, as long as you're aware of it when you're training, doesn't really matter. You're okay. You can get away with a lot of stuff. Your MRI is almost as bad as mine was 13 years ago. Yeah, and that, you gotta just do what you can. So it's a nice thing whenever you kind of see all that stuff and you're like, oh, well, actually, I feel fine. Great. You know what I mean? So the big thing for me, like when I got those new MRIs, was I was wondering whether my original disc injuries would have got any better with all the training I've done over the years or not. And that was my big interest thing. So because I've had inflammatory damage to my spine, I've been labeled with ankylosing spondylosis, which means that my spine is like breaking down and healing and breaking down and healing. So I've ended up with more disc injuries than I thought I had. But again, I'm absolutely fine. So yeah, it's cool to see what your body can adapt to. Always remember that your body can adapt to crazy, crazy stuff. So I have a disc bulge in L4, L5, and L5S1, very mild. What should I do? Awesome, Arian. So that's like the most common place for people to get injured because it's like at that base of where the pelvis is. So what you'll see with everybody, like when they do a deep, deep squat, is their pelvis will tuck underneath themselves when they move in that way. So then a lot of people can end up getting pressure on one point of those discs. And then that's why it's a really common place to be injured. So that was the first place I ended up with my two first ones, L4, L5, and L5S1. So what you want to start doing is improving the flexibility of your hips so that you're actually able to get into better positions as you're training. Tons of lunges make your hips crazy strong, hamstrings crazy strong as well, and your glutes crazy strong, and that helps to support everything. So if you have disc injuries, think about the stuff your spine sits on. It's your pelvis and all the muscles around your hips. If you make them stronger, your spine feels more supported, less need for tightness in the lower back to try and protect things, because a lot of times that's what your body does. It causes tightness to try and slow you down to protect something or to create a false stability. So if your lumbar spine doesn't feel stable, the muscles of your lower back will tighten up to create, like I said, this false stability. So if you can improve the muscles of your hips and improve your thoracic spine movement and improve your core stability, the actual tone of your muscle of your lower back will change then because it feels safe. Whereas if you start trying to stretch your lower back like crazy, you're going to end up with more problems because it's going to feel less stable. It's always something to keep in mind. So, but yeah, in terms of if you're in quite bad pain at the moment, search Tom Morrison flare up. That's the kind of stuff to use if you've got a bit of nerve pain going on, or you can search Tom Morrison back pain. And there's one called Back and Core Fix. So it's quite a short one. It has some nice hip stretches and some nice core activation in it. And the way I kind of explain what you should feel as you're doing exercises is really beneficial as well. And that's the biggest thing, like I keep saying about you haven't tried all the things. There's so many people doing pigeon stretches, glute bridges, adductor stretches, hip flexor stretches, all this stuff. And they're just doing them. they're not doing them, if you know what I mean. They're not actually trying to expand the range of motion. They're just sitting in these stretches and expecting them to work. They're doing core exercises and they're expecting the core exercise to switch the core on. They're not switching the core on to do the core exercise. So one of the most common ones that I like to explain to people is, am I able to, can you see me if I'm on this? You should be able to see me if I'm on this. So, no, it's not gonna work. Use the floor. So if I'm here and I want to do a side plank, like one of the McGill Big Three, if I do this, it looks fine and I feel stuff is kind of working. But if I actually, what I want to do with a side plank, I want to fire my obliques. I want to fire my deep core muscles. So I need to think about contracting here first, creating tension here first, and using that to actually drive myself up into position. So you hear now, there's a change in how I'm speaking because I'm now actually engaged in this, and it's much harder to hold, but I've actually switched the muscles on. This is leaning on my shoulder and my hips. I could hang out here for days. This, whenever I actually contract things and then drive myself up into position, all of a sudden I'm shaking. It's a much stronger position, but it's much more challenging. But that's what makes your body feel strong, not just hanging out there. So just because you can hold a plank for 10 minutes doesn't mean you're very strong. So something to think about. That's that thing, you know, there's tons of people out there doing planks and they're not getting the benefits from them. Their spine's not feeling supported because they're just leaning on their joints. They're leaning on their shoulder, they're leaning on their hips, and their spine's like, ugh. Whereas if you engage the muscles, space between the discs, things feel on, things feel strong. Yeah, give me a little thumbs up if you think that staying for that little rant there was worth the entire live, because that for me was life-changing when I figured that stuff out. I was like, and the difference, like in reducing my pain levels when I started doing that, phenomenal. Like, you've no idea. So I didn't have to use weight to try and actually engage stuff. So very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. I have a knot bump in my upper trap near my neck for the last few months due to injury, tightness in left neck ear. Caro said it's posterior vertebral joint. We gave no exercises. Any suggestions? Yes, if you search Tom Morrison neck, there's a really nice neck follow along that you can use, which has the neck yes, nos in them. They're really, really nice to work on. So test both sides with the yeses and the nos and see if there's any difference side to side, and then spend longer on that side. So if you notice you're able to tilt your head this way on one side and you do the other side and you're like, and it like almost pinches right away, that's the side you want to spend longer on. And then throw a bit of nerve flossing in as well for good measure. And then also look up our 7-minute banded follow along for the shoulders. So it has all that banded shoulder disc to get stuff in as well. So if you've got stuff going on with the traps, you want to be stretching the neck and you want to be activating all of the muscles around the shoulders, and the traps will calm down. Whereas you've had that injury at one point and you've kind of went like that and it hasn't kind of settled down. So I would be very reluctant to get adjustments on that. So it'd be better to see a good sports massage or sports physiotherapist for that and get hands-on treatment for the neck instead. Don't be getting your neck adjusted, especially if it was a bad injury or you maybe got whiplash or something, or you could have a disc bulge or something like that there. It's much better to have the muscles addressed and retrain things over time yourself rather than trying to look for a quick relief. Because again, if you get a quick relief with something, you will start to crave it. And it was one of the biggest things that I noticed. So for any of you who don't know as well, like I'm kind of like anti-foam rolling. I'm not saying it doesn't work and all that other jazz, but I can see how much of a trap it can cause for some people and that they end up doing it all of the time. And they could have much bigger stability and strength problems, and they're trying to relax muscles out to try and get them to feel better. Whereas if they were actually to spend more time on the mobility and opening up things in the right way so their joints move properly, the muscle tension will change. So like I used to be a foam rolling junkie. I used to do it every day, and you're probably talking, I was starting to rack up maybe like 45 minutes a day of this stuff. And I used to use a lacrosse ball on my lower back against a wall, and it used to audibly sound like it sounded like gravel in my lower back. Anytime I got massages, they were like, wow, your lower back is so stiff and all that other stuff. It wasn't until I fixed my hips that calmed down. There was no amount of rolling was ever going to help because my hips were shocking. My right hip was so much tighter than my left hip, and I had zero stability in my left side as well. So it's as if I had two separate hips. Like it was as if this was Billy's hip and this was Georgina's hip. Like they may have belonged to two different people. So that's how bad my hips were, and my lower back was taken. It was what was giving me all the symptoms. And I didn't know this for years. I didn't know. And I was spending a fortune. Like I was going to my physio twice a week probably, and foam rolling all the time, doing all this stuff, doing everything, and nothing was working for me. I'm so unlucky. In my mid-20s, I'm so old. And it's like, that was the knowledge I had back then. So through knowing what I know now, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't know my hips were completely different side to side. Like, you know, whenever I squatted and stuff, like my pelvis went slightly sideways a wee bit. It was so subtle, but then there were some movements like the 90-90. If I did a 90-90 position like this, my left side, I could kind of get up into it a little bit like this. If I was on my right side, I was here, and that was as far as I could get. Couldn't even take my hands off the floor. That was how different my external rotation was in my right hip. I wasn't able to actually get up into the position. So it just goes to show that you don't know what you don't know. So, and like I was squatting, I was deadlifting, I was out lifting my friends. Like I was lifting more than my friends and thinking, oh, I'm so strong, yeah. But I had all these problems going on, but I was also obviously the person that was chronically injured all of the time as well. So yeah, something to keep in mind. Scrolling. Thanks to you and Emily Lark. Awesome. I think I've heard Emily Lark being mentioned before. I shall have to check them out. Where else are we? Contralateral hips, thoracic twist and shoulder extension has been really helpful. Zenith has been more different. Awesome, Kathleen. Yeah, and that's sometimes wherever you feel the best stretch in a position, that's the one that works best for you. And sometimes, guys, as well, if you sit into something, you're like, I don't feel like I'm getting anything from that, and you double check that you're doing it properly, sometimes you're just maybe not tight in that way. So it's not really, it's a stretch you should still do, but you wouldn't want to spend loads of time on. You know what I mean? So look for the stuff that you find most challenging. That's the stuff that you'll generally get the most benefits from. Herniated disc, Riley, last year. Chronic leg sciatica for the past year or more. SMM helpful for that in your opinion? Yes, Riley, start with SMM, and any of the movements in it that you find super challenging, that'll be the thing that's going to help you the most. That's what you got to look for. And like I said, you're always looking to kind of have this balance of stuff that you know helps your symptoms at the time, but it might not necessarily be the thing that helps you long term. So sometimes for a lot of people, like you just need to get better at lunges. You need to get your legs much stronger. You need to get your balance much better. You need to make sure you can feel your hamstrings properly. And it's not so much like a pigeon stretch or figure four stretch or, you know, hamstring stretches that you need. It's actually the strength element. And by focusing, you know, do both anyway, but as the strength element builds up, that's the stuff that gets rid of your symptoms long term, which is what we're after. We want to be pain-free and not need to stretch all the time. I don't enjoy doing mobility and stretching all of the time. That's not my jam. I like to come in, do a bit of animal movements and mess about for a bit and lift a barbell. That's what I like to do. That's what I do now. So as long as I'm doing SMM regularly, I can do all that stuff, you know. So you want to get to this stage to know your body so well that you're able to even change your warm-ups if you need to. Like some days I'll be like, oh no, hang on, I do need to spend a bit more longer warming up. You know, if I'm pushing myself more in my training or whatever, I will generally need to do a little bit extra to bring that up rather than less. So that's one of the weird things as well. When you start to do more, you need to do more mobility as well, not just kind of go, oh, I've done more, so I'll just let everything drop down and just keep pushing myself and hammering myself into the ground. It's like, no, do more mobility. Biggest thing you can do to reduce systemic inflammation, trying to reduce as much inflammation in my left knee. So if you watch my knee video, go after your hips, go after your feet. So go after everything around the knee, make them move better. So the knees generally, like just imagine they're just hinges. So it's the stuff around them, up at the hips and down at the feet that actually, if you get them moving better, it takes a lot of stress off the knees. If your hips are really tight, then every time you're doing exercises, it's as if you're doing this, and that's what your knees can feel like, and that's why you'll get pain either outside or the inside of the knee. So it just depends. Go after your hips, go after your feet. That's the most important thing to go after. Other things on top of that you can do is the general like lifestyle stuff of better nutrition, better sleep, be more hydrated, all that jazz. But generally what I've found is if you improve your joint health, joint movement, that a lot of inflammation stuff can actually start to calm down, unless you've got like a meniscus tear going on and it's causing constant like flapping around and it's causing constant inflammation that way. Then like I had to, you might need to get a wee bit removed or something like that there. But if it's from tightness or weakness somewhere else, then generally you can work on that quite well and your knee will start to feel a lot better. Another big thing for the knees as well is do loads of hamstring activation stuff, single leg deadlifts and hamstring sliders. Really good exercises, make your hamstrings feel on, and you'll hopefully find that things will calm down for you as well. So yeah, knees can get super grumpy, but yeah, it's the stuff above them and below them that if you work on those, the knees can actually start to feel a lot better. And you know, there's people I work with like osteoarthritis. They've been told like they've got no meniscus left whatsoever, and they've knees of a 90-year-old and all this here stuff. But if they make themselves stronger at the hips and make their balance better, make their hamstrings stronger, they're generally like, you know, 90% of the time okay, and then every now and again they might get a bit of a flare up or something like that there, that they have to, you know, just do deadlifts for a while instead of squats for a bit because they can't tolerate a full bend. You know, like happy days, that's great, you know what I mean? So yeah, go off the hips, go off the feet. So have you heard of dry needling, acupuncture with electric current to activate and reset muscles? Combined with PT helped me a lot too. Yeah, like again, dry needling, foam rolling, all that there kind of stuff, the stimulation type stuff. It can give you that kind of like pathway there. Like it can give you that bit of a connection to get you started. But a lot of stuff I've just found, like if I explain something better to someone how to do an exercise, they can generally create that pathway themselves with just an exercise. So you can try this with me now. So if I wanted, say, to get you to feel your lat more, so in an exercise, so say you're doing like pull-ups and stuff, you're not really feeling your lats, I would just break that down to a position that if I'm going to press back into this post here, I want you to start feeling around here. So press back into the post and start really trying to feel there. Close your eyes and start trying to radiate that out even further and move yourself to where you need to be to feel like you can feel your lats the most. And then from there, keep your shoulder where it is and press back even further. Keep your breathing nice and relaxed. Make sure your neck isn't overpowering. Press back even further again. Now you'll start to feel like more stuff radiating outwards. You'll start to feel that area expanding and you'll start to feel your lats more. So it's a nice way to kind of get connections with muscles. Same thing for hamstrings as well. You can try this one with me too. If you've got something to put your foot up on. Here, put your foot up on and drag your foot backwards like this. Drag backwards again, drag backwards again, and you'll start to shake overall. And if you're not really feeling it from doing that with your foot planted, put your foot on something and drag back that way, or go for a straighter position, drag back that way, and start to find where you can really start to feel your hamstring, and then go back to the first position and see, can you get that sensation back in again. So for me there, I had to lift my foot up to get that sensation even better again. So playing around, that's that having a wiggle concept. Playing around in positions to actually feel the muscle you want to use is so important. And, you know, it's like that thing, you know, I just can't activate my glutes. It's like, well, fix it then. And it is that simple to squeeze your glutes as much as you can and then actually start to think, right, okay, can I go into a position and keep that tension there and then keep that squeeze there rather than just bending over and coming back up. So I want to leave this one with you now because we're coming up to 45 minutes of my rambles. I want to leave this with you now. Deadlifts. So if I'm here and I push my hips back and away, keep my back straight, feel my hamstrings a little bit, okay? But if I'm here and I think about bracing, so I'm pulling my sternum down towards my belly button, this is now solid. I now think about trying to get my hip as far away from my knee as I can while maintaining that brace in the middle. Now I really feel my hamstrings. From here, I don't just stand up. I squeeze my glutes to bring my hips through, okay? So I'm here, I brace, I reach into my hips, I squeeze my glutes to bring myself through. When I do that, I'm actually shaking as if I was lifting a weight, rather than bending at the hip, bit of a stretch in the hamstrings, standing up. It's completely different. Try them both. So here, hips back, stand up, brace, load the hamstrings, squeeze the glutes to stand up. Completely different, like completely. So that's that idea that sometimes you're doing stuff, but you're accidentally going through the motions. You're not actually activating the right stuff, and then your joints start to break down over time and get really, really grumpy. Multiple ankle sprains. So Kathleen, if you go to our feet and ankle playlist, start with the beginner one with JP and work your way through those. And then there's a nice 20-minute long one you can work with. It pretty much has everything plus the kitchen sink in it in that one. So yeah, look after your feet and a lot of good stuff happens. So Matthew, bought the program a couple of years ago, Black Friday, Christmas, but was sidelined for a year with bilateral shoulder issues. Before checking out your site again, any 30 to 90-day groups planned. We're doing our January mobility reset again in January. So it is a month of follow-alongs along with us and some live videos as well in January. So it's like a start of the year. Hey, let's do some mobility together every day for a full month. And it just gives a really good kickstart to the year. So keep an eye for that. It's the mobility reset. But yeah, if you bought the program a few years ago, they are lifetime access. So if you forgot your password ever, go to tommorrison.uk, type in your email at the forgot password option, and you'll be able to reset and get yourself back in that way. So it'll be a good time, like watching this live right now, it's a good time, the motivation's there. I would go log in right now and get yourself stuck into things, and yeah, hopefully stop your shoulders from becoming a problem again. I want to give you same play guitar in his bendy manner. Oh, so I've started, so I'm playing with my old band again, just like covering because one of the guitarists can't make it. And I haven't played properly in like 10 years. I could not believe, one, how bad I got. So I'm okay, I can still pass myself, but we're doing a band practice and I was playing the songs, and I was kind of frustrated with how I played, but I still played the songs, got through it. The guitar solos weren't as nice as I'd like them to be and all that stuff. But oh, thank you very much. So what was so funny to me, like I used to play for like hours at a time. So I'm a very like hyper focused person. Like if I fall in love with something, I will just do it all day, every day. So I used to play like guitar for like 6 hours a day, maybe. And so we did this band practice. So I was maybe playing like 2 hours tops. And I got home, and that night I was giving my wife a head massage, and I couldn't move my left hand. I was like, do, 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 and it just stopped working. And I was like, what the heck? Like I couldn't even make a fist anymore. It was so crazy how deconditioned the muscles had got. So yeah, that was quite interesting to me because I hadn't experienced that before. So yeah, it's funny how you think you're all right, and if you just haven't been doing something for a long time, you don't even realize there was 10 years that I hadn't played properly, and all of a sudden it was like my hand couldn't cope with it anymore. And I was like, woo. So it kind of gave me this kind of like, I better start training a bit harder again so that I'm keeping myself up where I'd like to be, rather than getting complacent. Because that's what happened to me. That's why I had my flare up last year. I stopped training as often because I was waiting on my garage being done up. So yeah, whenever the construction of this was all happening, I kind of went, you know what, I'm going to take a few months off. And then I got a massive hip flare up. So, and that's what encouraged me to get those other MRI scans, because I thought like my hips falling to pieces here. I'm going to need a hip replacement here now at 37. Oh, that's me. And I went and got the MRI scans, and it was just because the discs that are affected with me, the nerves go through that part. So that's why I was getting the hip symptoms. So it was kind of the first time I'd had a flare up where I only had hip symptoms and no lower back pain. So it was quite interesting to experience that. But again, yeah, totally fine again, which is awesome. And how I like to be. So yes, I'm going to, we need to be like we were when we were kids, run around and move and play all day when we get the chance. Yeah, never sit still. I like to call it like intentional fidgeting. Even whenever like we were out earlier on, I was in my jeans, stretchy jeans, always buy stretchy jeans. I was just standing doing this here in the middle of a place with other people around, just because, I hadn't, you don't realize how much you don't move your hips day to day. Like I love to leave this, okay, I will leave you now. So I always love to leave this example of like, when's the last time you moved your neck fully? Like when is the last time you fully turned your head as far left as you can, fully turned your head far right as you can, fully looked up as far as you can, fully looked down as far as you can, and then fully went side to side as far as you can? Like when's the last time you did that? And it's like, you might not have done that for some joints for months and not even know. So yeah, always make a habit of doing stuff that gets you nice and deep into your hips every day, okay? So that things don't get lazy on you. Best thing you can ever do for lower back is look after your hips, and lots of good stuff happens. So thank you for asking, ma'am, and consultation, sir. Totally changed my life. Sand plank marches forever. Yes. Thank you, Sir Tom. Highly recommended for all. Thank you so much, Will. It is good to see you. So, any tips for replacing squats and deadlifts if you have a torn hip labrum? See, is there a way that you can do foot elevated split squats? Would be something to try for now. So if you can go with something with a bit of height. So if you're able to get to this position here and it doesn't feel too painful, that would be kind of a way to work on and try a bit of a lower height to get some loading going. Main things for the torn hip labrum, weirdly try adding pull-off presses, okay? Some deep core activation can help a lot with the hips and keep with your in-person physio as well. So a hip labrum tear is one of the tricky things. It depends on the type of tear of like the symptoms you can have. So try and find some kind of exercises that you can work on, even if they have to be like partial squats and box squats, things like that, that you can still work on. And again, if you can keep the muscles feeling active in some kind of way, that can help a ton with the symptoms. So yeah, hopefully it's not something serious and it will calm down itself without needing any intervention. And yeah, but so like think of it that way. There is loads of people with labral tears that will show on MRI that are totally fine. So lots of stuff that keeps your glutes working if you can, lots of glute bridges if you can. So it just depends. Look for things that aren't pinchy. So if you need to change your stance on something, or say you're doing glute bridges, point your feet out a little bit, point your toes out a little bit, see if that doesn't catch you in the same way. Look for loads of things like that and then lure on them, essentially do loads of reps in a lighter way without too much load. So yeah, that'll be kind of the way to look at it. I shall leave you all now and I shall post this. The last time I did post one though, it only posted like 3/4 of it. So I don't know what way that will work, but we shall see. So thank you very much for joining me, guys. And I shall hopefully catch you again. I still need to figure out the buttons on this thing. There we go.